What's up, YouTube? Okay, so based off my last video, again, why your Subaru shouldn't have really more than 400 horsepower, wheel horsepower. 350 is kind of a better line, but um, based off that, again, just wanted to go into depth, not giving people ingredients to just go to the moon with these motors, with Subarus. Again, referring to the turbos, the WRXs, STIs, or even swap things. Um, Kind of longevity mods, what you can do to make it last a long time and still have fun, right? Like uh, have a track day, spirited driving, um, even your daily, I guess, even your daily. I went over that in the other video. Strongly discourage you lightly, definitely not heavily, modifying your daily driver or your family car. So first, you see beside me, this is my garage setup, but I didn't show this in the last video. I have numerous parts because I know what happens with these things. So this was the motor that was in this car before. This car was originally WRX swap, so this is a WRX motor. There was no issues with the motor. I mean, maybe slightly, like 10% lower compression on cylinder 4, but nothing huge, all within probably about 15% compression on that. I pulled that out just because I wanted to go with a little more power. And I don't really, expect the open deck EJ205s to last a long time, being pushed pretty hard. So that's that. And then a spare 6-speed. Like there's a 6-speed over there just in case. That's just, again, I'm more of a collector of Subaru stuff at this point. So I like doing it. And the purpose of the last video and this video is just, again, like, we'll go over longevity, but this isn't for everyone. Like, not everyone has a garage. Not everyone has the kind of time or money to invest in this kind of stuff. Like, 6-speeds are not cheap. EJ207's not cheap. I do all the work myself. Some people may not be mechanically inclined to do that. It's kind of, knowing those things, knowing where to stop, knowing your limits, knowing that, there is YouTube stuff and things out there to help you, but within reason, right? So, okay, so the first thing, I can show the motor, and we'll kind of go in depth, like what I have, maybe a little bit in depth on what I have, but the first few things, the first thing that I would recommend, let's say your car is stock, right? You have a stock WRX, regardless of the year, stock STI, regardless of the year. The first thing I would do, as I said before, is try to lighten it. If you can't do that, don't want to do that, but you want some more power. Just, again, this is power. We'll go into the other stuff as well. Power is only one aspect, so that's why I'm not going to go really far in depth in that. Turbo back exhaust, so catless or catted, however you prefer, and then a tune. That should be pretty much it. And a lot of people do a lot more than that. But the biggest thing when I say those two things, the quality of the exhaust, it's the car's excrement. Who cares? Just get it out the back. You may like it to sound a certain way. Obviously, that's debatable. Get whatever works for you, used or new. But the tune is the big thing here. So tuning is like a lot of people go with Cobb. I don't like Cobb. Well, I haven't for quite some time. Just their business model I don't really like. But the Cobb access port allows you to flash to certain stages, if you will. And what I just described, just a catless or a full exhaust, that's it. From the downpipe back, that will they'll have a stage 2 for that. They'll have a map for that on the access port, but it's fairly generic. It's just called a base map. It's not specific to your car. It's just kind of what they deem as safe, which some people have seen that's a little bit too rich in some places. It's one of those things where I wouldn't rely on that for a long period of time. I would shell out, instead of $600 for an access port. I specifically use e-tuners. So basically what you do is, I have a laptop over here that's from like 2006 with a Tatrix cable, which you can look that up, Tatrix cable. It connects to the OBD2 port, costs like $150 brand new. And basically you download free software, open source software, to flash your ECU and log your ECU. And basically what will happen is you'll tell a tuner your modifications via email. He'll send you a beginning map, and then you'll go through revisions with them, right? Like, so you'll go, first he'll send you, like you say, I have, turbovac exhaust. He'll send you a map. You log that map with the parameters that they have set, and then you send those logs to them. They'll look at the logs, and then they'll send you a revision based off how you are. Typically, you're looking at, depending on a light modification, like one we just talked about, 5, 6, 7 revisions. You can get up into the 15s, like a lot of revisions, but typically you can probably get that done depending on the tuner, 1 or 2 weeks at your own leisure, right? There's also dyno tuning, which again, you can do with a tuner, or you have to do with a tuner as well. I don't really like dynos because it's not really a realistic kind of tune to me, if you will. Like, they have to fabricate incoming air on a front mount or a top mount. When you hear your car, it just kind of scares me. Again, that's like an old school weird thing for me. I prefer a road tune or an e-tune. Like, even if you don't get an e-tune, you don't want to go back and forth with the logging, you just want a tuner to do it for you. I recommend if they dyno tune, at least road tune it. Make sure they take it out on the road, because it's one thing on the dyno how it feels when you just ball it. It's another thing for daily drivability and other aspects as well. So make sure you do that. So again, first thing would be exhaust. This is just power, exhaust and tune, and then find a reputable tuner. Don't just use Billy Joe that learned how to use ECU Flash or open source tuning yesterday. Like, good ones I've used Eric at Torque Performance, Shinji Tuning is who I use for this. Fat Body, I've used them as well, but I don't even know if they still do it. It's been a long time. But yeah, one of those, a reputable tuner. There may be people in your area that I'm not familiar with specifically, but as long as they have a bunch of experience under their belt, and it's not just they're going for the highest horsepower levels, they can be conservative as well. A conservative tune is what we're looking for here. We want more power, but we're looking for it to last, right? We want to have fun for a long time, not just for a couple months and then the car blows up. So that's what I would do power wise. That's really all you need. You'd be surprised. These cars come with 250, the new WRXs, SGIs. They come with that. The next steps I would do, if you haven't, like not doing power mods, again, lightening it would be great. But if you can't do that, and we just discussed the power mods, I would do like the tires, right? Tires are huge. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but I have all seasons up here that I normally rock for the winter time. And then I rock what are the tires? They're I think they're Dunlops. I forget what they are specifically. I'll have to look at them. But I have summer tires. The Firehawks. That's what they are. I'm sorry. The Firestone Firehawks. How the hell did I forget my tire brand? They're a cheaper kind of summer tire, but they're a really good quality summer tire. So I rock those. But I would say tires, and then probably, like, because the Subaru is more kind of understeery, and even if you don't push your car, you probably maybe not feel it. You may feel it, but I would get a rear sway bar. Not something crazy stiff, but most of the Subarus, I'm not familiar exactly with the newer ones. I know the GD line, GR line, you can go up to, I think I'm running personally a 22 in the back, which is pretty stiff, but it's adjustable, so there's different settings. I think I have it on like the middle setting on a 22, so it's probably like a 21. And then up front is a 20, or excuse me, up front is a 22, but I have it on the middle settings, but to kind of like even it out. And those are one of those things where if you throw that on the car and just try to take it hard right away, you're going to feel a totally different car. It's not totally different, but a lot different. So take it easy when you do those sorts of things. So power was just the exhaust and tune. Handling was just the tires and like a sway bar. Again, this is not expensive stuff, and stuff you should be able to, for the most part, do yourself. Even if you're not mechanically inclined, you can look this stuff up. It's turning a few wrenches. It's not going deep on things. And then for braking, obviously you can go heavy on it. And if your car doesn't have Brimbos, then you can buy some Brimbos, some rotors and things of that sort. But just a good track pad or a more racier pad. So there's many options out there. Hawk's great. The EBC pads are great as well, the red ones. But I mean, you can look and kind of the pads do provide different things for you. So obviously there's lower dust, but better bite, and you go into a lot. I'm not going to like do that research for you. You can look into a specific pad for your specific car. But in terms of calipers and rotors and pads, the pads you're going to feel a lot of. The pads will change quite a bit. So just the pads alone will help you out. But if you want to go past that, which I'm all for, you're not going to really hurt your car by giving it more stopping power. That's not going to affect longevity. That's only going to help you in track and twisty situations, and also preventing accidents possibly. So that's something, if you want to splurge, by all means. The handling and braking, definitely go all out. You can't really hurt stuff with that. You're not really going to hurt anything. You're only going to make your car better to drive and safer. So those are the things that I would do. And right there, you're looking probably like, I mean, depending on how much, probably like a couple $1,000 to $2,000, and then you'll have a very fun car to drive. Very fun, kind of fast car. And when I say fast, I don't mean you go to the drag strip and run 11s. I'm saying like a fast car on a track, or on your back roads, driving safely and respectfully through a canyon, or just in general, right? I'm not saying it's going to slow by any means, but I just don't want you to expect it to be a drag car. So the other things, you need these longevity mods. Those are the performance mods that you can do. But everyone says like, oh, the head gaskets are, you're going to blow the motor, the rods are terrible, or bearings, everything. Like, the longevity mods are even bigger than those, though, because obviously the car from the factory is pretty nimble. At least the lighter ones are. The mods that I would do, and that I have done for the most part, well, first thing is just routine maintenance. If you buy a car used, even new, but I mean, just follow the maintenance schedule. But if you buy it used, regardless of what people tell you has been done, I just do it anyway. Like I don't trust that maybe something was wrong, or maybe it's not to my standards. So spark plugs. Obviously, changing the oil. I use Rotella 5-weight 40. That's a pretty common one, I think, for the Subaru guys. I've never had issues with the Rotella 5-weight 40. And then I use Subaru oil filters. So those are like the biggest things. The other thing is that I didn't touch on, that I should have briefly. If you go beyond that exhaust and get a tune, if you go beyond that, please tune it. Like, these cars need to be tuned for literally everything. The ECU is pretty fickle. So anything that could affect air going out the exhaust, air coming in the intake, fuel coming in, with the exception of the fuel pump, which you don't need to tune for because your fuel pressure regulator will keep the pressure right where you need it. With the exception of a fuel pump, pretty much anything that you can do that affects the fuel or air coming in and out of the vehicle, you'll need to tune for. So don't put an intake on and then be like, well, I don't need a tune for that. You do. You need a tune for that, especially if you're math-based. Okay, so with that said, the other thing is, let me show this. The other thing would be the air oil separator. So these are pretty common. Everyone's probably heard of this at this point. Subarus have a lot of blow-by. Well, they can. So, and what that basically can do is lower your octane rating, leading to detonation. So to combat that, you have an air oil separator. And what that basically does is, it's basically going through the intake track, taking out what the PCV or what the rest of the intake system would put oil back into the engine and bring that back into the crankcase. A lot of hoses, a lot of wiring, or not wiring, but a lot of hoses and a lot of, just hoses to go through here. But you can look up the diagram for your specific vehicle. The biggest thing, and most people don't realize this when you're doing an air oil separator, is that the line that comes out the bottom, typically, this is an IAG one, the line that comes out the bottom, which is the one down there that goes back to the crankcase, you want to make sure that it is level, right? That it's level. So if it comes out of the air oil separator and then it goes up a little bit and then comes down, then what's going to happen is that oil is going to get stuck. That's supposed to be going back into the crankcase, and it's not going to be flowing back how it should. There's ways around that, but just make sure that you're mounting your air oil separator high enough And if you are and it still is not either straight or going at least a slight angle downward back to the crankcase hose that it's supposed to be going to, then there's other approaches that you can do. Maybe use the turbo drain hose as opposed to that's straight below, things of that sort. So that's definitely something that I would recommend. An aerial separator, they're about $200, $300 in some cases used. I think I got mine for like $250, but it was like brand new used, and kind of go from there. Okay, so that's it. That's all that I have. If you want to stay on to see what I have, this is where I'll post it. Just real quick at the end of this video. Do as I say, not as I do. And the reason I say that is because I'm going to go over the stuff that I have, and I do go against some of the things that I'm saying to you now. But I've been driving Subarus for 20 years. This is my 12th one. I haven't blown a single motor, and let's just say I have a little bit more money if things go wrong. So I'm in a good position. It doesn't matter to me. Most people are not in that position, or may not be mechanically inclined to do this. Okay, so this is an EJ207. The 207, this motor alone costs I think this was about $7,500, but the motor came with a transmission. So that's a 6-speed, and that's worth like $3,000. So it was about $4,000. This is a little bit different than your normal Subaru engine. I went over that in the last video. You can look up what's different about an EJ207. But what's different about this is, what's different about my setup specifically, and what I just went over, what you should get and what you shouldn't do. I have a front mount. It doesn't get too hot here in Washington, but it's one of those things where it helps lower intake temperatures. And plus, I have a stock turbo, but I probably won't be staying stock for, I hope, maybe like another year or so. And then I'll be going to a slightly, not a huge, slightly larger turbo. So that's the plan for that. That's why the front mount was always like kind of the plan. Just kind of go from there. Then also a Koyo radiator. That's not really necessary. But again, for me being swapped, I needed the room. So I wanted a thicker radiator, but then I had to get the slimmer fans and then kind of go from there. The thing that you'll notice, which is probably different for most, is there is nothing here. There's no sensors here. Normally you would find a MAF sensor there. I'm speed density. So I have an upgraded MAP sensor, which is the mass air pressure sensor. And then I have an intake air temperature sensor, which measures the air intake. If you don't know what speed density is, you can look that up, but it basically uses these two components right here to calculate what the MAF would calculate. In so doing, you can use whatever pipe or intake you want without needing a retune. And also for some people, it means you can add a blow-off valve. Vent to atmosphere is fine because the air that you would blow off is actually coming from here, not past where this is already reading. If you do a blow-off valve on a MAF-based one, it's reading the air here. And if you blow it off over there, then you're wasting that air. It's going to run a little bit rich. So that's what I have done to mine. I have about 350 wheel horsepower right now. This is on, and other people can do this. I don't recommend this for everybody, but this is on, as you can see by the yellow cans probably over there, this is on E85. So with that said, I also have 1300cc injectors, which are huge. And then I have a fuel pump. No rails, nothing crazy like that. Again, the reason I said also this will probably last a little bit longer is just the way I drive. I'm not constantly on it. Also, I monitor everything religiously and do maintenance religiously. So you probably saw in my last video, or at least the thumbnail. I watch I have gauges for literally everything: coolant, oil, E85 content, air fuel ratio, the boost, obviously, and then the normal gauges. And then I monitor voltage and I monitor tire pressure, which is down there right there. So there's nothing that I'm not really watching. A lot of thought has gone into this. So that's kind of where I sit with mine. But again, you're probably gonna watch the end of this video and be like, you have more than what? And again, I do as I say, not as I do. Some people can get away with stuff, right? Some people can. I feel like the people who are newer to Subarus, your first thing shouldn't be to see my videos and be like, I want to do that. That's not the way to go. I don't need this much. It's a toy to me. And at the end of the day, as I was talking to my friend about this is going to sound crazy for some people, but I prefer to work on a car as opposed to driving it. I love tinkering. I'm not saying I don't like driving. I love driving it. But if you had to tell me to pick one, either drive fast cars or work to make cars fast, I'm picking the latter every single time. So that's one of the things, like, I just constantly like to tinker. So it's not going to go away from me. That is not everyone's cup of tea. Not everyone wants to sit underneath a car, or turn wrenches, or take motors out, put them back in. You'll see that you can probably notice that in various little things that I've done. I just did this. This is why do you need that? You don't need that. This is literally like I made my own ram air setup that uses this vent right here. You don't need that. I just like to tinker. I'd rather just playing around, see if that lowers intake temps. We'll find out. I have to log it. So just a quick follow-up video. If you follow those steps, if you got this far, which you shouldn't have, if you follow those steps, you should have a car. If you drive, not stoplight, just dogging it out in routine maintenance, the car should last a long time. So once you go above what I just described, the car will not be as fun, especially if you don't know how to drive it. And it's not going to last long. So thanks, YouTube.